Hi everyone, and welcome back to Why Decrypted. I'm Tom, and we have another script by Ben. Um, Full transparency, Ben wrote a script so long for this that I had to send it back, and we've had quite a lot of back and forth about getting it down to something more presentable. Because when I originally asked him for a script on the Immortality Paradox, he said he heard, please write something the length of eternity. What else do I need to do? Oh, yes, I must introduce Max. Max is our editor, and I didn't mention him in our last video. And because I didn't, he plastered sarcastic comments all over the screen about getting rid of me. I'm sure he's going to do that again today anyway, but a big shout out to Max for editing this stuff and for cutting out most of the nonsense that I go on about. So, as said, we are looking at the immortality paradox, why living forever might ruin everything. On the surface, immortality sounds like the ultimate prize. Endless time. All the experiences you could imagine. No more rushing to finish your bucket list. No more midlife crisis purchases of motorbikes you can't ride. No grey hairs creeping in. Unless you decide you quite like the silver fox look and keep it on purpose. It's intoxicating. We've all had the thought. If only we all had more time. Whether it's another year with someone you love or another century to learn the piano, master 10 languages, and finally watch England win a penalty shootout. Thank you, Ben. The fantasy of forever is hard to resist. But here's the catch. The reason this whole episode exists, the immortality paradox. If you never die, does life actually lose the very thing that makes it meaningful? If you've got infinite tomorrows, why bother doing anything today? Why write that book now if you can get around to it in 500 years' time? Why risk falling in love if heartbreak could last for centuries? Why even bother taking out the bins on a Thursday when you could wait until the year 2525? I'm almost certain that comes from Ben having a conversation with my wife about me completely forgetting to put the bins out this week. Eternal life sounds like a blessing, but maybe it's a curse wrapped in a shiny package. This obsession with cheating death isn't new. Humans have been at it since the beginning of civilization. Take the Epic of Gilgamesh, the world's first and oldest known story, dating back over 4,000 years. What's it about? A king who goes on a quest for eternal life after the death of his friend. Spoiler alert, he fails. Even in the Bronze Age, people were already saying, nice try, mate, but immortality isn't on the menu. Fast forward to ancient China, and you've got Emperor Qin Shi Huang, forgive me if I've not pronounced that right. That's the guy who built the terracotta army. He was so obsessed with living forever that he drank immortality potions. The only problem was these potions were made of mercury, which, fun fact, is not great for you. He died in his 40s, proving once again that chasing immortality can be fatal. Medieval Europe, same story. Alchemists spent centuries trying to brew the Philosopher's Stone. Not the Harry Potter kind, but a mythical object that could supposedly grant eternal youth. And, spoiler, again, it didn't work. If it had, we'd still have 14th century wizards hanging around complaining about TikTok. And religion, many of them promise eternal life. But notice how it's never quite as simple as you just keep living here forever. It's always transformed. Heaven, reincarnation, nirvana, even thousands of years ago. People seem to sense that eternity, in the ordinary sense, might not be such a good idea. So let's bring it back. Why do we chase immortality? Despite the obvious failures and the horror stories, we chase it because death is terrifying. We're the only animals fully aware of our mortality. Dogs don't worry about entropy. Trees don't get existential crisis, but we do. And immortality looks like the ultimate get out of jail card. Talking of dogs, I have my dog in the office with me today. Would you like to see him? Come here, boy. Come here. Come up. Come say hello. No, no, come over here. Come over here. I'm not sure if you will come on camera. Come up, up, up. Hello. Say hello to the ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Hello. Yes. You're a good boy, aren't you? This is Chester, and he often comes to the studio with me, the office when I'm recording. And he sleeps under my desk. So there you go. That's there you go, Max. There's a tangent for you to edit out, mate. Where were we before I started introducing my dog to people? Oh yes, that's where I got to. Because death is terrifying. We're the only animal fully aware of our mortality. Dogs, hence why you're on the screen, mate. Yes, these are ears. Don't worry about entropy. Trees don't get existential crisis, but we do. And my immortality looks like the ultimate get out of jail free card. Yes, it does, doesn't it? But here's where the paradox bites. Take away death, and you also take away urgency. Deadlines, pun intended, give life shape. They push us to act, to love, to risk, to build. Without them, what would we do, or why would we do anything at all? Philosopher Bernard Williams argues that immortality would eventually lead to crushing boredom. After a few centuries, you'd run out of goals, hobbies, novelty. Even Netflix would run out and dry up eventually. Death, he said, is just inevitable. It's necessary. It saves us from external anguish. Sorry, it saves us from eternal anguish. Others disagree, of course. They argue humans are endlessly creative, always reinventing themselves. Given eternity, we just keep finding new possessions, new loves, and new adventures. And maybe that's right. But either way, we're back to the paradox. Immortality promises everything and risks taking away the one thing that makes life precious. In this episode, we're going to unravel this paradox from every angle: the science, the philosophy, the practical consequences, and the big question of whether immortality is really a blessing or a curse. And yes, Ben thinks living forever sounds brilliant, and I have my doubts. And Max will cut in with sarcastic text on the screen if I get too carried away. So let's get into it. So, myths and legends failed us. Kui Shing Hung poisoned himself with mercury. Alchemists got nowhere with the Philosopher's Stone, and Gilgamesh came up and Gilgamesh came home empty-handed. But hey, that was thousands of years ago. Surely in the 21st century we're doing better. Well, sort of. Let's start with the body. Why do we age? One of the biggest culprits is something called telomeres. They're the protective caps on the end of your DNA. Every time a cell divides, the telomeres get a little shorter. Eventually they fray, the cell can't divide anymore. And your body basically says, cheers, mate, you've had a good run. Then you've got the senescent cells, cells that stop dividing but refuse to die. They just sit there like grumpy old neighbours, clogging up the tissue, leaking chemicals, and generally making everything worse. Science calls this the hallmark of aging. Translation: the many ways your body slowly betrays you. But here's the kicker: we're not completely powerless. Labs around the world are working on ways to slow, pause, or even reverse some of these processes. Mice have had their lifespans doubled by tweaking genes. Worms have been kept alive 10 times longer than normal, which sounds really impressive until you remember they're worms. Of course, it wouldn't be the 21st century if billionaires weren't trying to buy themselves immortality. Google's Silico Labs was set up specifically to cure death. Jeff Bezos has pumped money into a company called Atlas Labs that's trying to reprogram human cells back into youthful ones. Elon Musk, well, he's too busy trying to colonize Mars. But if someone offered him an immortality pill, I'm sure he'd take it. There's a certain irony in watching people who have already made money or who have already made more money than they can spend, desperately clawing for more time. It's like winning the lottery and then trying to bribe Father Time for an extension. Then you've got cryonics. The idea is simple. When you die, your body gets popped in a freezer. Well, actually, they put it in liquid nitrogen, with the hope that future scientists will thaw you out, fix whatever killed you, and send you on your merry way. It sounds like a decent plan until you realise the success rate is so far zero. Nobody's ever been thawed out successfully. Meat doesn't even defrost well in a freezer. Sorry, I'm going to read that. That's not what Ben's written. Ben's written, meat doesn't even defrost well in my freezer. I'm not sure I trust technology with my brain. But there are companies already doing it. People are literally paying to have their heads frozen. hoping that in 200 years' time, someone will remember to defrost them like an old lasagna. Wasn't there a theory about Walt Disney being frozen, which I'm sure is complete myth? But there's a whole theory around Walt Disney being frozen, and the reason they released a film called Frozen was to stop the idea of Walt Disney being frozen at the top of Google, being the top hit on Google. I'm sure that's a thing. I'm sure I haven't just made that up. Anyway, let's go on with it. Another angle. Ditch the body entirely. Some futurist dream of mind uploading, scanning your neurons in your brain and creating it and recreating it in a computer. The digital you could live forever. Safe in the cloud. Maybe even downloadable into a robot body someday. It's the stuff of Black Mirror. But here's the problem. Is digital you still you? Or just a copy that thinks it's you? What's that film with Johnny Depp where he does that? He uploads his brain into a computer. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. It's a really good film. I really hope you can't hear this as well, but Chester is now snoring under my desk, so he's enjoying himself. Okay. Where were we? What are we doing? It's the stuff of Black Mirrors, or is the copy you or just thinks it's you? If I photocopy a £20 note, the copy looks convincing, but it's not legal tender. Some questions apply here. If you upload your brain, is that survival or just duplication? Sorry, the same question applies here. If you upload your brain, is that survival or just duplication? I also don't think you can copy a £20 note, Ben, but photocopy a £20 note. But in fact, I'm fairly sure they don't let you scan it. Anyway. And if someone pulls the plug on your server, is that death or just bad Wi-Fi? Good question. And Ben's left me a little note here that says, I have an idea for a spin-off script. Would uploading your mind make you immortal? Ben, I'm going to say go ahead and write that, mate, because I have no idea if this video is going to do any well, because so far it feels a bit like a mess, but I really like the topic. So yeah, go ahead, write that. We'll do that one. Here's where we leave the lab coat behind and step into philosophy. Let's assume, for argument's sake, that scientists crack it. Telomeres fixed, sensed cells flushed, brains uploaded, cryonics perfected, humanity achieves immortality. Now what? Well, philosopher Bernard Williams has a famous essay on this, arguing that immortality would be unbearable. His reasoning, eventually you'd run out of novelty. You'd exhaust every hobby, every conversation, every meal, every love story. After a few centuries, life would become one long Tuesday afternoon. Others push back. They say humans are endlessly inventive. We keep finding new things, new loves, new adventures. Give us infinity and we'll keep ourselves entertained. Yeah, I don't tend to agree with old Bernard here. But even then, there's a deeper problem, and that's meaning. Life feels meaningful because it's finite. Death is the deadline that gives urgency. Without it, why do anything today? You could just postpone to tomorrow. That's a very good point. I mean, the reason I'm recording this video on a Saturday is because time is finite. My time is finite. Our time is finite. I'm just going off on a tangent about infinite and finite now. Let's carry on. Oh God, Ben, it's like watching him take penalties. The drama isn't in the act of kicking the ball, it's in the knowledge that one miss could end everything. That's the tension. Remove the risk, and it's just 11 blokes taking turns on a training drill. Fair enough. Immortality also raises the stakes of our decisions. Imagine knowing that every mistake, every regret, every heartbreak, you'll carry it forever. A bad tattoo, that's not just for life, that's for eternity. I don't know if that makes any difference, but okay. On the flip side, you could argue immortality gives you endless chances to reinvent yourself. Mess up, you've got centuries to start over. But then you're still the same person, or just an endless series of reboots. So here's where we land at the end of this part. Science might get us closer to beating death, but philosophy forces us to ask whether that's actually a good thing. Because immortality isn't just a biological upgrade, it rewires the entire human condition. And the paradox is this. We want immortality to preserve life as we know it, but in reality, it might create a life so alien it doesn't feel human anymore. So we've covered the myths, the science, and the philosophy. But let's zoom in on something even trickier. What immortality would actually do to society, relationships, and daily life. Because even if science cracks the code, immortality doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in our world, with all its flaws, politics, and questionable governmental decisions. Let's start with the obvious. Earth is already crowded. About 140 million people are born every year, and around 60 million die. That balance is what keeps our population somewhat stable. I'm not sure how that's a balance, Ben, but okay. Now take death out of the equation. Imagine every baby born stays forever. Within a century, Earth would be bursting at the seams. Food, housing, water, energy, all stretched to breaking point. Unless we master interstellar travel, we're quickly running out of room. Maybe immortality only works if if we become a spacefaring species, which is fine if you're Elon Musk, but the rest of us are still waiting for pot. Which is fine if you're Elon Musk, but the rest of us are still waiting for the potholes to be fixed on the M25. I don't know how you Googled that and got that pin, but that's very good. The political nightmare. Chester, your head's disappeared. Oh, there you are, you're back. The political nightmare. Now think about politics. Right now, politicians are at least retire eventually. Well, expire. Imagine leaders who never die. That means you could have the same people in power for centuries. And if history has taught us anything, it's that absolute power plus immortality equals a very bad time. Even democracy gets shaky. If older generations never die, they could massively outvote the younger ones forever. Imagine trying to push progressive change when the votes include people who still think MySpace is cutting edge. Then there's the family problem. Right now, life has a rhythm. People are born, grow up, take over, and pass things down. Immortality breaks that cycle. Picture meeting your 600-year-old great 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 grandmother at Christmas dinner. There's a lot of people arguing over who gets the last roast potato. In- Inheritance laws would collapse because nobody's ever leaving anything behind. Wealth, property, and power would just accumulate forever in the hands of those who already have it. Immortality might make inequality permanent. So let's get a little bit personal for a second. What would it feel like to carry centuries of memories? It's hard enough living with regret or grief over a few decades. Imagine piling up hundreds of years of mistakes, heartbreaks, and losses with no release. You'd remember every failure, every broken friendship, every moment of shame. The weight of immortality could be crushing. Sure, maybe you'd adapt. Maybe your brain would learn to forget. Or you'd just stop caring. But if you lose that much, are you still you, or just an empty shell drifting through eternity? And here's the paradox again. Eternity might not be torture because of pain, but because of boredom. Think of it like Netflix. At first, it's exciting. Endless shows, endless choices. But give it a few centuries and even the algorithm will run out of suggestions. At some point, you'll have seen it all. Again, Ben, it's like England at penalties. The first few are thrilling, but after 800 years of missed spot kicks, you'd be screaming, "Just end it already." Feels like that anyway, mate. Uh, Even if we mastered immortality, here's the final twist. The universe itself has an expiry date. Stars burn out, galaxies drift apart. Eventually, entropy wins. The heat death of the universe means everything becomes cold, dark, and lifeless. So immortality doesn't actually mean forever. It just means sticking around long enough to watch the lights go out. Imagine being the last person alive in a universe that runs out of energy. That's not immortality. That's cosmic loneliness. So here's where we land. Immortality sounds like the ultimate gift. No death, no ending, just time. Endless time. But take away death, and you also take away urgency, meaning, and even identity. The very thing that makes life precious is the fact that it ends. In a way, death isn't the enemy of life. It's the thing that gives life its shape, the boundary that makes everything else valuable. Without it, immortality risks becoming not a blessing, but a curse. And then Ben's written this final bit as Ben versus me, so this will be interesting. Now, if Ben were wrapping up, he'd say, living forever sounds brilliant. Imagine all the knowledge, all the adventure, all the chances to see England finally win a World Cup again. I don't really think that matters to Ben because he's American, and I think that's probably just a jab at me. But okay. Me, I'm not so sure. I think there's something deeply human about knowing time is limited. And I do, I genuinely do believe that, although Ben's put it in the script because he knows my views on this quite well. I genuinely do believe that the fact life is finite gives it purpose and meaning. And yes, it pushes us to love, to create, to take risks. And then there's a little joke that Ben's written here for me, so I'm going to say it again. And I don't know how many penalty mentions he's managed to get into this video, but it says, I may even appreciate the occasional pennant we shoes out. And what does Max think? Well, truthfully, we don't know. Max will probably throw something sarcastic on the screen here about how he's the one who has to edit all this, which would be fair enough. So here's the big question. If you were offered immortality right now, a pill, a machine, a digital upload, would you take it? Would you risk the boredom, the inequality, the weight of endless memories, just to escape death? Or would you say no and embrace the idea that life's beauty comes from limits? Let us know in the comments, because this is one of the oldest questions humanity has ever asked, and we are genuinely curious about where you stand. So that's the end of today's script. If you're still here, I'm really grateful. As I said, this video does feel like a bit of a mess. So if you've stuck with it, thank you ever so much. I've been Tom. The script has been by Ben. Max has written some lovely stuff about me on the screen, I'm sure. We had our guest star of Chester, and this has been Why Decrypted, because nothing is quite what it seems.